Greetings, good storytellers. It's the middle of the afternoon. I didn't sleep last night and having a little bit of trouble, but trying to, get some good energy going in the day by getting a trope video done. So let's see if I can just knock one of these out pretty quick. Having a little bit of difficulty getting a take that I like, so I'm gonna try using a trick that I came up with back when I was first starting making the videos. I never actually used it, but it was to sing a little snippet of a song. This was meant to be off camera, but the heck with it. So let's go old school back to simpler times when there are less things to worry about. So I gotta get up, I gotta get going, I'm gonna see a friend of mine. He's round and he's fuzzy, I love him because he's just... Greetings, good storytellers. I am the Artful Narrator, and it is my privilege to welcome you to learning the tropes of writing. Today we are going to be discussing visual tropes, and specifically the idea of how to make your character especially memorable or unique. Because we all want our main characters to stand out in people's memories, or perhaps, dare I say it, to even be iconic. And while, of course, first and foremost, the most important thing in crafting any character is their personality, that they should be a well fleshed out individual with interesting faults and foibles, and that the sum of their personality should be strong and nuanced in a way that it is something that the reader becomes well acquainted with, and they feel as though they know this person like they were a good friend or an old acquaintance. But as important as that is, still, clothes do make the man, and the physicality of a character goes a long way toward informing the reader who they are, or towards deceiving them and causing them to have inaccurate expectations that you can then play upon. And you can look at some iconic characters who have used these different aspects of physicality to excellent advantage. For example, consider Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean: Curse of the Black Pearl. Here is someone who is an eminent trickster, almost sort of Bugs Bunny-esque, this pirate and con man who always seems to be one step ahead. And this strangeness to him is beautifully... Yes, you're a kitten. Hello. Socks says hi. Say hi, Socks. Yeah, you're a kitten. Yeah, see, look, that's you. Yeah, it's your reflection. Hello. Love you. It's a good Socks. As I was saying, Jack Sparrow. That wonderful trickster personality of his is beautifully accentuated by a very dynamic physicality, where he almost looks like this rock star of the seas with his dreadlocks, his gold teeth, and his little bit of black eyeliner, and of course his slightly drunken movements that deceive exactly how clever he really is. But while there is an instance where all these elements are at harmony, you can also add a subtle subversion. For example, consider Toph from the Avatar: The Last Airbender. Here is someone who just looks like an innocent little blind girl. How much trouble could she be? When in fact, she is about 10 pounds of sass in a 5-pound bag, and a eminent badass. Also, a spectacular deadpan snarker. This is someone who you do not want to mess with. This is someone who your first, the first read you get on her will feed into your misconception of exactly how dangerous she is. And this is a folly that many antagonists in the show also fall prey to. So whether the physicality of your character is playing in to their personality, or is slightly at odds with it so that it creates that interesting juxtaposition, still these are powerful tools. Also, there are these two different sides of it. There is the attire of your character, which can inform, the culture of your story, what region it takes place in, or also the status of the individual. The physicality of the body itself is very important, and this is why diversity is such a beautiful and empowering thing in storytelling, and something which I will do an entire episode on unto itself. Because even if you look at the simplest aspect of this diversity, in its simplest form, one of diversity of age, you can see that back when superhero stories all were about either adults, and then the other characters were just children or teens who were the sidekicks. Their children reading the stories could, of course, project themselves into Wonder Woman or Batman, but still, the only people who were their age in the stories were these sidekicks. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with the sidekicks, but you don't want to be the sidekick. You want to be the hero. And yet, along comes Spider-Man. Peter Parker swinging onto the scene, and here he is. He's a teen. He's like the kids reading these stories. And yet, he's the hero. He is the hero of his own story. And it was this beautiful, empowering thing. So the physicality of the character, whether it is the gender identity, whether it is the race, whether it is just the physicality of the body, because being a hero doesn't mean that you need to have six-pack abs or a perfect triangle or contour to your body, perfect hourglass shape to your body. Heroism is something inside. Still, all of these are aspects that go into making your character, and they are beautiful tools that we have at our disposal. But what if we were to instead, for the purpose of this video and for this possibility for your story, what if we were to consider stripping away some of those and just take it right back to that idea of a strong personality? What if we were to write a character what if we were to write a character whose physicality is never described? Perhaps you say what clothes this person is wearing. Of course you say whether they are a woman or a man, but are they heavy set? Are they thin? What is the color of their skin? What is the color of their hair, of their eyes? Do they have any, unique scars? None of this is touched on. It is all left up to the reader's imagination, for the reader to be able to fill in crafting this story in such a way that you, as the storyteller, fill in the world, fill in the personality of this individual, make them someone that the reader will love and relate to, but allow the reader that gift of fashioning the physicality for the character themselves. Now, this is something which has been used to great effect in several stories. Well, probably many stories, but the ones that I have examples for are Peter Pan by J.M.Barrie. Here, the titular spirit of youth, Peter Pan himself, is never physically described. We understand, of course, that he is childlike, but all these particulars of color of hair, of weight, none of these are filled in, because J.M.Barrie wanted this to be left up to J.M.Barrie wanted this to be left up to the reader. Leave it to their imagination to fill it in. Similarly, in The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, there the protagonist, called simply by the narrator the time traveler, is once again never described. And in such instances, this can, in a way, become an avatar for the reader, not necessarily to put themselves in completely, because this is a character who still has a personality. They are still very clearly an individual all their own, but still you can put in such things yourself as can help you to relate to this character, whether it is you are seeing Peter Pan with aspects of yourself when you were a child, or perhaps as you're reading this story to your own children, you're envisioning him as having characteristics of said children, or of your friends when you were a kid, that one boy in school who was always getting into trouble but had the charisma to pull it off. These are all things that give a wonderful connection to this character. And make this a beautiful tool in your arsenal, because while it is important to come to a decision as to how your character will look, because that will say something about your character, it is not something that needs to be in every story. And having that absence of physicality, giving that as a gift to the reader, is something that is very unique and can add almost a hint of mystery to your character. Because there are very few stories, I shouldn't phrase it that way, I should say there are a great many stories where the physicality of your character is actually not that important. Certainly if they bear a striking resemblance to someone else who gets, certainly if they bear a striking resemblance to someone else and that resemblance gets them pulled into madcap adventures, or if they have a unique feature that marks them as the heir of some dynasty, then those are things that make it an importance to the story. But there are many stories where the physicality of the character really doesn't matter. And so wouldn't it be interesting if the reader was allowed to fill out those blanks themselves, to decide whether this character is thin or heavy set, whether they are a little bit younger or a little bit older, whether they are blonde or redheaded. So take a look at your story and decide whether that is something that might be beneficial to you. See if you stripped out those descriptions, if it would change the way that the reader relates to your story. It might help, it might not, but I hope that either way, this video has been informative, or at the very least, a pleasant diversion. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.